Hello friends, today we are going to discuss one of the important medieval Indian political thinkers, Ziauddin Barani. Ziauddin Barani has expressed his thoughts on ideal sultan and also an ideal polity. So he was a great philosopher who worked as a scholar in Muhammad bin Tughlaq's court, and he is considered to be an important person while interacting with other scholars in the court. He has many contemporaries like Amir Khusro and others. Ziauddin Barani belongs to 14th century. He is a medieval thinker. As we all know, the medieval times begin from 7th century AD to 13th century AD, and of course 14th century also. So Ziauddin Barani belongs to the medieval times of 14th century. And he worked as a scholar in Muhammad bin Tughlaq's court. So after the Khilji dynasty, the Tughlaq dynasty has taken the reins for the Delhi Sultanate. We all know the history of the medieval history of India, in which Muhammad bin Tughlaq played a great role in changing the capital from Delhi to Daulatabad and Daulatabad to Delhi. And in his court, Ziauddin Barani worked as a scholar. As a medieval thinker, Barani considered politics as a branch of theology and suggested the king to follow the Islamic religious laws and traditions and establish an ideal polity. So he is a medieval thinker. Ziauddin Barani is considered as a medieval thinker because he belongs to 14th century. And he also considered politics is a branch of theology. Theology means a subject of religion. Study of religion is called theology. So he considered politics as a branch of theology and history, and in which he studied certain political ideas. Important among them are the ideal king and ideal polity. So an ideal king, according to Barani, should follow the Islamic religious laws and traditions. To establish an ideal polity, the king should invariably follow the religious laws, particularly the Islamic religious laws and traditions, according to Ziauddin Barani. What is polity? In Barani's mind, polity is public administration, financial administration, revenue administration, judicial administration, and everything. So that means it describes about the statecraft, as Kautilya described statecraft in his Arthashastra. Machiavelli described his statecraft in the notable work called Prince. Ziauddin Barani has also described his ideal polity in his books. And he defined what is an ideal polity. According to Barani, an ideal polity has a sultan at the apex level, and after him there are ministers, nobles, and advisors. And after that, certain higher officials of administration, and every state need to have an army. That army should protect the people from external aggression and internal upheavals. And lastly, a judicial administration. Judicial administration should punish the anti-socials and anti-nationals within the territory, and revenue and financial administration. So these units consist of the polity: the sultan, ministers, advisors and nobles, higher officials of administration, army, judicial administration, revenue and financial administration. This consists of his the broad definition of his polity. He has defined what polity consists of. According to Barani, a polity should consist of at least 6 elements. One is sultan, The second one is ministers, nobles, and advisors. The third one is high officials of administration. Fourth one is army. Fifth one is judicial administration. And sixth one is revenue and financial administration. So these 6 elements consist of a polity. So what is an ideal polity? What is a model polity to be followed, to be constructed by each and every state? An ideal polity is a model for all the states to follow, to imbibe. An ideal polity inspires with its qualities, and every state strives to reach the state of an ideal state, ideal polity. So ideal polity consists of a sultan, ministers, advisors, and nobles, higher officials of administration, army, judicial administration, and revenue and financial administration. And while describing an ideal polity and an ideal sultan, Ziauddin Barani has followed the historical method and observation methods. These are the two important methods. One is the historical method, the other one is the observation method. So these two methods are used as methods of philosophical inquiry, and he quite often soon cited the examples of Islam, Persia, and Greece in his works. And as an important member of royal court, he has also observed so many political experiences and developments. So his method is observation method. So the historical method and observation methods are considered to be very prominent philosophical methods that Ziauddin Barani has followed. And in these works, Ziauddin Barani made certain 22 suggestions to the Sultan to construct an ideal polity. So on the one hand, he has suggested the qualities of Sultan and obligations of the Sultan. On the other hand, he also made 24 suggestions on building an ideal polity, a model polity, a polity that consists of the Sultan, ministers, nobles, advisors, high-ranking officials, army, judicial administration, revenue and financial administration, all put together. It's called as polity. It's nothing but the statecraft described by Kautilya and the statecraft described by Machiavelli in his great work Prince. So likewise, Ziauddin Barani also made some 24 suggestions to the Sultan to construct an ideal polity. So in today's lesson plan, first of all, we'll be discussing about Ziauddin Barani, his life and works. After that, his contemporary times. Next, we'll be discussing the ideal polity, his concept of ideal polity. And we'll be discussing one by one, king and ministers, higher officials in administration, justice and judicial administration, state policies and regulations, army, revenue and financial administration. These 6 points will be covering. After that, we'll make a critical evaluation of the Ziauddin Barani's political thinking. So to start with, Ziauddin Barani has widely dealt about the king and ministers. He has described the king as a representative of God, and he insisted that king should follow the Islamic laws and the precepts of ulema. So that's how the king should be moral and religious. He should construct the foundation for a value-oriented society, and he should choose his ministers very precariously with all the high qualities. That's how he starts with the king and ministers. And Barani has also suggested certain important qualities that a king ought to have, ministers are needed to have, and likewise higher officials and administration is required to have. So in today's lesson, we'll be discussing about Ziauddin's ideal polity. First of all, let us see how his life went on. Ziauddin Barani was a medieval Indian philosopher belonging to 14th century, and he was born in 1285 and he died in 1358. That means He was born in 13th century and died in 14th century. Mostly his philosophy belongs to the contemporary times of 14th century. And he is a contemporary of many more scholars of the era. And he was working as a scholar in Delhi Sultanate under Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So he led a very royal life in the beginning. And the most of his life, from childhood, youth, and in these heydays of his life, he was in royal comfort in the early part of the life. But later, his second part of his life was very sad, and Barani was imprisoned in the last leg of his life, and he died out of poverty and destitution. So this is the life history, and he has written so many books. Two important books are related to political philosophy, mostly. One is Tariq-e Firozshahi. Tariq-i Firozshahi. Tariq-i Firozshahi is an important political work. And after that, Fatwa-i Jahandari. Fatwa-i Jahandari. So these are the two important works, academic works, that dealt about his political ideas and philosophical ideas on politics. Tariq-i Firozshahi, Fatwa-i Jahandari. So these two works describe his views on ideal sultan and ideal polity. Here the books are also given here. The pictures of his books are given here. The Firozshahi and the Urdu version of Fatwa-i Jahandari. These are given here. So he has described the ideal sultan and ideal polity in these two books, Tariq-i Firozshahi, Fatwa-i Jahandari. And besides these two books, Ziauddin Barani has also written so many other books, which include Sana-i Muhammadi, Salat-i Kabir, Masir-i Saadat, Hazratnama, Tariq-i Barmikiya. So these are the other books that he has written. He has written his books in Urdu language and Arabic language, and some of them are in Arabic language and some of them are in Urdu language. Later they are translated to English and various other languages of the world, because Barani is a very famous philosopher of medieval times of India. Barani's other works, besides the two important works, Tariq-i Firozshahi and Fatwa-i Jahandari, these are the two important works. In these works, he has discussed about the ideal sultan and ideal polity. And besides these two works, he has written other works also, which include Sana-i Muhammadi, Salat-i Kabir, Masir-i Saadat, Hazratnama, Tariq-i Barmikiya. So these are the other books written by Ziauddin Barani. And let us know something about his contemporary times. In fact, the contemporary conditions, the political, economic, and social conditions that influence any philosopher to draw conclusions from the social realities. That's why the influence of contemporary conditions is very much there on every philosopher. And Barani is also not an exception. So before understanding his political ideas and concepts, we should understand his contemporary times. During the medieval period of India, particularly from 7th century to 14th century, India was mostly ruled by Muslim kings. The rise of Islam and Muslim rule with Khalji dynasty succeeded by Tughlaq dynasty. So this is the first important aspect. That means the Muslims ruled India during medieval times, and during their rule, Islam was given the upper hand. So the rise of Islam and Muslim rule with Khalji dynasty succeeded by Tughlaq dynasty is the first important character of the contemporary times of Barani. Secondly, though there were Muslims, but these Muslims are not a united lot. There are differences. Among the Muslims, there are some foreign Muslims and Indian Muslims. So supremacy of Turks, Afghans, Persians, Arabians, Abyssinians, and Egyptians in the royal court. So the Indian Muslims were not treated on par with the foreign Muslims. The Indian Muslims were only considered as secondary grade, and supremacy of Turks, Afghans, Persians, Arabians, Abyssinians and Egyptians, they were given upper hand in any royal court of Delhi Sultanate during medieval times. This is an important aspect. And thirdly, there were landed gentry and soldiers classes in the society. The landed gentry owning the lands in thousands of acres of land, hundreds of acres of land, tens of acres of land. And likewise, there are also landless laborers in the society. Khan, Malik, Amir, Sepah Salar, Sari Khalil. So these are called as the landed gentry and soldier classes in the society. So the dignity and honor of any person is linked to the amount of land that is owning in the society. So we can make an analogy and come parallel between European feudalism and Indian landlordism. So in India also, it's a landlordism, particularly Khans, Malik, Amir, Sepah Salar, Sari Khalil, who are considered to be the landed gentry of the society. And there are also soldier classes in the society. So the dignity and social status of any person is linked to the quantum of land that he is owning. So there are two important classes, land owning class and landless laborers. So these two economic classes are there in the society. And likewise, there are also educated classes like ulema, who are appointed as qazis and maulvis in the society. And during the times of Alauddin Khilji and Muhammad bin Tughlaq, there are Persian scholars like Hasan Nizami, Minhaj al-Siraz, Amir Khusro, Ain al-Malik Multani, and these are great scholars who contributed to literature and culture. And likewise, among the people, there are revenue collectors like Hoods, Magdamas, and Chaudhries, who are all generally Hindus. So this is how the social structure of the society was composed. Among the Muslims, there are foreign Muslims and Indian Muslims. And within the Indian Muslims, there are landed gentry, soldier classes, and normal Muslims. And likewise, there are Hindu employees, revenue collectors, and so on. And likewise, a good number of Persian scholars like Hasan Nizami, Minhaj al-Siraz, Amir Khusro, Ain al-Malik Multani. So these are the scholars who contributed a lot for literature and culture. And besides this, there are also hundreds of revenue collectors like Hoods, Magdamas, and Chaudhries, who are village-based employees. There are hundreds of revenue collectors who used to collect taxes from the normal people and deposit for the government. So they are called as the revenue employees, revenue collectors. So according to Barani, he has the ideal polity consists of ministers, advisors, administrators, nobles, and commanders. Is the first important aspect. In an ideal polity, the Sultan is at the apex level, and after that, the second level of leadership is ministers, advisors, administrators, nobles, and commanders. And these people are to be chosen by the Sultan, who are having certain 54 qualities. He has enlisted all the 54 qualities that a minister, advisor, administrator, noble, commander should have. So these are the qualifications of the qualities. Some of the qualities include a person to be appointed as a minister or an advisor or an administrator or a noble or a commander should have sincerity. He should be sincere. He should be talented. He should be experienced. He should be ripe in judgment. That means you need to have the wisdom in coming to conclusions and making judgments. And he should have good temperament. and he should have the farsightedness, prospective vision. That's called farsightedness. And he should be very cooperative to the administration and establishment. And he should be careful spending. While spending the money from the royal exchequer, he should be very careful spending. And likewise, a person to be appointed should be broad-minded. He should not have the narrow thinking or narrow attitude. He should have the broad-minded, and he should be frank, and he should be good in handwriting. So these are the qualities that are required for a minister, advisor, administrator, noble, and commanders. And these are some 54 qualities. Only some qualities are mentioned here. There are also so many other qualities in addition to the qualities that I have mentioned here. So all the ministers, advisors, administrators, nobles, and commanders need to have certain important and unique qualities. And these qualities include the sincerity, talent, experience, ripened judgment or wisdom, good temperament, farsightedness, cooperative, careful spending, broad-minded, frank, and good in handwriting. So these are some of the important qualities that a minister, advisor, administrator, noble, and commander need to have. So after Sultan, these people contribute a lot for the success of administration. And these people are very keen in administration: ministers, advisors, administrators, nobles, and commanders. In fact, these people only will run the administration. That's why these people need to have good qualities with integrity. So he has suggested some 54 qualities to these employees, these sections of people. And likewise, Bharani also suggested that appointment of intelligence officers, information officers, and ambassadors. And these officers are related to the foreign affairs. The king need to know the intelligence reports from the neighboring states and other states. So that means the king should invariably collect the data from the neighboring kingdoms, and he should know the defense preparedness of other countries, and he should know the problems that may occur or recur from the neighborhood kingdoms. So that's why every king need to appoint an information officer, an intelligence officer, and also to settle the disputes in a peaceful manner. For the dispute settlement mechanism, he has suggested the appointment of ambassadors. Ambassadors are to be employed on behalf of the state into other states, other countries. And these ambassadors will see to it that every political dispute or economic dispute is to be settled in a peaceful manner without any conflict or without any bloodshed. So these ambassadors employ the techniques of diplomacy, and they avoid the war, they prevent the war. That's why the appointment of intelligence officers, information officers, ambassadors is inevitable. And likewise, the king need to have good welfare and economic prosperity. This is the goal of administration. Every administration need to have certain goals. And among these goals, the first one is welfare and economic prosperity. The king need to know the public welfare. He should be welfare oriented. Welfare, public welfare, welfare for the sick, welfare for the unfit, welfare for the disabled, welfare for the poor, welfare for the destitutes, the goal of the administration. And the welfare of the people is the first priority of any administration. And this is possible only with economic prosperity. So economic prosperity guarantees the king and the polity with a wide range of welfare measures. So that's why the goal of administration should always be welfare and economic prosperity. And after that, The Sultan should have consultations with nobles, ministers, scholars and advisors on regular basis. Regularly, he should consult the nobles, ministers, scholars and advisors almost on daily basis or weekly basis, periodical basis. Whenever there is a crisis, whenever there is a issue of contempt, the king should warrant the nobles, ministers, scholars and advisors on regular basis and consult with them. So Sultan should have consultations on regular basis to avoid the problems of the polity and to strengthen the administration, and he should have consultations with nobles, ministers, scholars and advisors on regular basis. And after that, an ideal polity need to have justice and judicial administration. Justice and judicial administration form an important part of the administration, a polity. So, ideal polity should have good justice. In fact, when do we require justice? Justice presupposes conflict. Whenever there is a conflict, we require justice. That's why, to address the issues of justice, the judge should take the Sharia or Islamic law as a basis in deciding the justice. That's why justice is part of Deen-i-Islam. Deen-i-Islam. Deen-i-Islam is a wide knowledge with Islamic traditions and precepts that defines justice. That's why the judges and the Sultan should be acquainted with Deen-i-Islam. And after that, he has also given a thinking about judicial administration. First of all, the principles of natural justice are to be followed while making judgments. What are principles of natural justice? In any conflict, there may be two arguments, the argument of the victim, the argument of the culprit. So both the arguments should be heard, and then only judgment should be rendered. That means without hearing or without making a trial, without letting the culprits and victims advocate their own views, no judgment should be rendered. That's how the principles of natural justice are to be followed. And Barani has suggested there are certain people who give witnesses, and these witnesses require to be scrutinized because some witnesses may be fake witnesses. That's why he has prevented certain people from making any witness. So he has made only certain people as qualified to give witness. So these are called as the principles of natural justice. The principles of natural justice, Barani has suggested that the judge or the king should render the justice only after going to the judicial trial, judicial process, by letting know the arguments of both the parties of the conflict, both the culprit and victim, and then only he should render his judgment. And the punishment of the judgment should always be moderate, it should not be revengeful. So there should be a right proportion between the crime and punishment, or offense and punishment. If the punishment is severe, maybe the crime also may be severe. If the crime is severe, the punishment may be severe. If the crime is moderate, the punishment should also be moderate. That means there should be a right proportion between the offense or criminal nature, crime, and the punishment. So punishment should not be revengeful, and punishment should facilitate the culprit to have reform in his own life. It should lead to soul searching. It should lead to self-review. It will lead to self-introspection. So he need to introspect himself while undergoing the punishment. So punishment should not be revengeful. Punishment should be reform-oriented. And likewise, while dispensing justice, judges should not care for personal loss. sometimes, in spite of having the personal laws, judges should render the judgment in a very objective manner. Objectivity in judgment is very important. So while dispensing justice, judges should not care for personal laws, and they should dispense justice at any cost, even at their personal loss also. And principles of natural justice are to be followed while rendering the justice. So even judiciary requires certain qualifications according to Bharani. And he has suggested certain qualifications like sincerity, honesty, integrity, experience, talent, ripe judgment, good temperament. So these are some of the qualifications that are required for a judge. So in the judicial administration, the principles of natural justice are to be followed. That is one thing. And this indicates a natural trial of culprit's version and victim's version should be heard, and then only judgment is to be rendered. Without making any trial, judgment should not be rendered. And even the witnesses should not be believed, and witnesses should be classified and scrutinized. And some of the people do not qualify to be the witnesses according to Bharani. And likewise, even while accepting the witness of any person, Bharani suggested that the integrity of the witness should also be under scrutiny for accepting it as a witness. That's why he has suggested certain qualifications and qualities for witnesses also. And the punishment should also not be revengeful. While rendering the punishment, the judge or the king should see to it that the culprit need to have the punishment that facilitates his reform, that facilitates his self-introspection, that facilitates his soul searching. So that's why punishment should not be revengeful. And likewise, while dispensing justice, judges should not care for personal laws. And principles of natural justice are to be followed. This is all about his judicial administration. And likewise, Bharani has suggested that the king should follow the market control policies. He should control the market. He should fix the prices for certain consumable commodities, and he should see to it that these prices are not to be allowed to hike. And without the consent of the royal officials, market should not enhance its prices. So the state should control the economy, the state should control the policy, market prices also. So this is called as market control policies. A market need to be controlled economically and politically by the king and his nobles. So this is called as market control policies. And after that, he gives about his views about army. He says army is very important for the existence of any state. In fact, the sovereignty of any state is reflected in the organization of its army. So that's why army should be efficient and disciplined. An efficient and disciplined army is the need of the hour. Without efficient and disciplined army, the state cannot protect its borders. The territorial integrity cannot be maintained. That's why the sovereignty and territorial integrity of any country is directly and indirectly linked to the efficient and disciplined army, the existence of an efficient and disciplined army. This is one thing. And secondly, he has suggested certain 10 qualities for an army commander. And army commanders need to have good qualities like they need to have God-fearing nature, and they should follow the Islamic laws, and they should follow the traditions of the Muslims and Islam. And second one is they should be loyal to the sovereign power, the Sultan, and they should be balanced in temperament. They should be simple and righteous. They should be well experienced in art of war. They should be dedicated to the profession, and they should be courageous and brave, and they should also be kind-hearted, truthful, and law-obedient nature. So these are the 10 important qualities that an army commander need to have. These qualities enhances the efficiency of the army. And he also suggested the quantum of army. He says, Ziauddin Barani has suggested that a king need to have at least 50,000 soldiers and an additional 25,000 soldiers for waging a war or to conquer a territory. So this is the quantum of soldiers, the army that a king need to have. So to conquer a territory or for waging a war, some 50,000 soldiers are required. Without a good number of soldiers, no king or no sultan can wage war or conquer any other territory. So to conquer a territory or for waging a war, some 50,000 soldiers and an additional 25,000 soldiers are required. This is for army administration and military administration. And besides the army, you also need to have the horsepower, the camel power, the elephant power, and artillery, like weapons, weaponry, and everything. So this is the army administration or the military administration suggested by Ziauddin Barani. And after that, Ziauddin Barani has stated that the king should strengthen the treasury. That's called as Kharaz. Kharaz means treasury. So it is the primary duty of the king to protect the Kharaz of the treasury. So the treasury is very important, and treasury to be strengthened. And at the time of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, there were 5 important taxes that were there in the work. The first one is Ushur. Ushur is a one tax. It was collected mainly from Muslim landlords. Under Ushur, 1/10 of agricultural production was taken as the tax. The second one is Kiras. Kiras is a tax taken from Hindus. Land tax is 1/3 to 1/2, 1/3 to half of total produce. And here we see an interesting observation. Hindus need to pay higher taxes and Muslims need to pay relatively lower taxes. Whereas Hindus are forced to pay half to 1/3 of the total produce as a tax, land tax. Muslims are permitted to pay only 1/10 of their agricultural production as tax. And after that, there is also another tax called Zakat. Zakat means the rich Muslims' contribution for the welfare of the poor Muslims. This is called Zakat. In Zakat, at least 2.5% of annual income of every rich Muslim should be contributed for helping the poor Muslims. So this is called as Zakat. And there are also 2 more taxes. Fourth one is Khans. That means the plundered money. If the king conquers the other kingdoms and if he plunders money, within this money, 1/5 of the plundered money goes to the treasury and 4/5 of the plundered money is to be distributed among soldiers. So this is an important source of strengthening the state treasury. And likewise, there is another tax called Jizya on non-Muslims tax. So these are the 5 important taxes at the time. And Ziauddin Barani has indicated that the tax structure should be revised on timely basis so as to strengthen the Kharaz. Kharaz means treasury. So the strength of the government, the effectiveness of the administration always based on the strength of the Kharaz, the strength of the treasury. So this is he calls it as revenue administration. So if we make a critical evaluation of Ziauddin Barani, we can say that Ziauddin Barani has indicated certain important qualities to the king, and he has also suggested that a king need to have some 24 suggestions from Barani, in which he should appoint certain people with high quality, integrity, sincerity, frankness, truthfulness as the important qualities of a king. And he should build an army. That army should be very efficient and disciplined. And he has suggested some 10 qualities for an army commander. And these 10 qualities include the God-fearing nature, loyal, balanced in temperament, simple in righteousness, well experienced in the art of war, dedicatedness, dedicated to his professional duties, courageous and brave, kind-hearted, truthful, and law obedience. So these are the 10 qualities that an army commander need to have. And likewise, if a king wants to conquer a territory or waging a war, at least 50,000 soldiers are needed. And besides these 50,000 soldiers, an additional 25,000 soldiers are also being kept, and they are also required to conquer any territory. This is called as the army administration or the military administration. And after that, he also gives certain important aspects on strengthening the Kharaz. Kharaz means treasury. So at the time of Ziauddin Barani, there are 5 types of taxes: Ashar, Khiraz, Zakat, Khans, and Zazia. So with these 5 taxes, the king must strengthen the treasury so that the economic prosperity and public welfare are to be taken care of by the king. And the king of the Sultan must also control the market. So controlling the market is an important aspect of the king, the Sultan. And while controlling the market, the king should fix the prices for certain commodities. And he should not allow the market to vacillate in the prices. And the prices should be stable, and the prices are fixed by the government. So the king, it is his responsibility to fix the prices of the market commodities, both as consumables and non-consumables, so that the economy should be under the control of the polity. The king should control the market. That is the main aim of Ziauddin Barani, to establish an ideal state, ideal polity. And likewise, Barani has also given about his ideas about judicial administration. And the judges who are to be appointed for making trials, the judicial trials, need to have righteous behavior, courage, tolerance, good temperament, ripe in judgment, and various other qualities. And he says that principles of natural justice are to be followed while rendering the justice. The principles of natural justice means the king or the judge should follow the judicial trial before making any judgment. A judgment is to be delivered only after the witnesses are examined and the judicial trial is completed, whereby the culprit and victim establish their own arguments, and from these arguments the judges search for justice. So this is called as principles of natural justice. So the king, the Sultan, and the judges must follow the principles of natural justice, the judicial administration. And in delivering the justice, the judges may reward punishment to the culprits. So the culprit's punishment should not be revengeful. It should contain reforms. It should be reformistic oriented. Reforms should be brought in the judicial administration also. So While dispensing justice, judges should not care for personal laws. This is also an important aspect. And justice is considered as an integral part of Deen-e-Islam. Deen-e-Islam. So an ideal polity should give most importance to justice. As the modern Indian polity given importance to its ideals like liberty, equality, justice, fraternity, unity and integrity, and so on. The medieval polity also has given justice as an important place, as an important value of an ideal polity. And justice is an integral of Deen-e-Islam. And the king on regular basis should consult his nobles and ministers, scholars and advisors regularly. So he should take the welfare and economic prosperity as the goals of administration. The goals of administration should be the welfare and economic prosperity of the people. And he also suggested the appointment of intelligence officers, information officers, and ambassadors in other countries. So these are some of the important aspects of ideal polity given by Ziauddin Barani. In fact, Ziauddin Barani has defined what an ideal polity is. According to Ziauddin Barani, an ideal polity consists of the king or the sultan, ministers, advisors, administrators, nobles, and commanders, with military administration, revenue administration, judicial administration, personal administration, and others. And he suggested 54 qualities that are inevitably in vogue for selecting nobles, commanders, administrators, advisors, and ministers. So these are the important aspects of Ziauddin Barani. And Ziauddin Barani is considered as a first-grade scholar and philosopher of medieval times, and who dealt upon various aspects of an ideal polity. An ideal polity is like the statecraft of Kautilya, an ideal king of Machiavelli. Even Ziauddin Barani also has provided very important insights into the judicial administration, the military administration, the financial and revenue administration, and the personal administration. So this is all about Ziauddin Barani. Thank you, friends. Thank you very much.